A guy pursued my girlfriend for 7 years, and she knew it the whole time, despising him for it. But when he was on the verge of being erased by some system for failing his mission, my girlfriend lost her mind and rushed to save him. She left me standing alone at our engagement party. She said that a guy who had loved her for 7 years didn't deserve to meet such a fate. What she didn't know was that the moment she walked out of that party, my own mission failed too. The punishment was that I would forget her completely. I stood on the stage in a crisp black suit, a frozen smile plastered on my face, waiting for my fiancée, Alice Miller. The venue was filled with our friends and family, but the joyful chatter had long since faded, replaced by confused whispers. Alice still hadn't come out. She was backstage, already in her gown, but she refused to come out. The MC had tried to coax her out 3 times, only to be sent away on each attempt. Mr. Black, Miss Miller has been on a video call with someone, and she seems very upset, the MC said with a strained laugh. I don't dare push her anymore. I clenched my jaw, trying to suppress the anger simmering inside me. Alice was probably on a video call with him. His name was Jerry Clark. Alice and I had grown up together, playing and studying side by side, go to all the same schools from kindergarten all the way through college. Everyone assumed we were destined to be together, and all our friends and family were certain we would end up married. Alice had even sworn she would marry no one but me. She was completely indifferent to all other guys, and that included Jerry, who was a year below us. Jerry came into our lives 7 years ago, when Alice and I were sophomores, and he was a freshman. He came from a poor town in the Appalachians, tall and thin, dressed in simple clothes, but not without a certain charm. His eyes were incredibly bright, like stars in the night sky. He had used those bright eyes to watch Alice ever since the day she defended him when a convenience store owner accused him of shoplifting. The boy fell in love with his hero, but Alice didn't like him. She didn't like the breakfast he brought her every morning, the water bottle he handed her after tennis practice, or the umbrella he held over her head in the rain. She especially didn't like his earnest claim that these were just acts of gratitude and that he had no other intentions. He supposedly had no other intentions for 7 long years. Even after he graduated, he found a job near our office building just so he could see Alice every day. The guy was relentless, but Alice was mine. At least until she walked out on that stage, she was supposed to be mine. For the sake of my parents' reputation, I forced myself to swallow my anger and wait for Alice to appear. When she finally did, her gown was slightly rumpled and her hair was a mess. Her face was a canvas of guilt and conflict, her lips pressed into a thin, tight line. The guests finally let out a collective sigh of relief and started to clap and cheer, trying to salvage the mood. The MC grabbed the microphone, ready to begin, but Alice ignored all of it. She walked straight up to me, took my hand, and said, "Honey, I'm so sorry, but I have to go. Can we postpone the engagement for a month?" "Why?" I stared at her, wondering if my eyes weren't as bright as Jerry's. Why couldn't I ever tell if Alice truly loved me? Alice was silent, her eyes darting around as she mumbled, "The date is just bad luck. Let's pick another day next month." "Did something happen to Jerry?" I asked, cutting straight to the heart of the matter. Alice went rigid, her expression shifting as she forced a bizarre smile. "Jerry's in the hospital. It's late-stage cancer. The doctor said he probably only has a month left." "I already had someone check," she added. It's true. No wonder she had been hesitating for so long. She'd sent someone to the hospital to verify his story. It seemed what he'd told her before was real. He was bound to some system, and if he couldn't win her over, he would be punished. I nodded calmly. This wasn't a secret. Jerry had told Alice a long time ago that he had to win her heart or he would die. He claimed that in this lifetime, he loved no one but her. "Yes," she said, "he's facing a severe punishment. He's going to die in agony from the cancer." Alice sighed, her lips tightening once more. She had always despised Jerry. After all, being harassed for 7 years had worn her patience thin. She had even lost her temper once and hit him. Jerry had curled up on the ground, crying and apologizing, but he insisted he just loved Alice so much he couldn't control himself. Psycho. That was Alice's usual assessment of Jerry. Now, it seemed her opinion had shifted. "The ceremony won't take long," I suggested coolly. For the sake of both our families, let's just get through it first, and we can talk about everything else later. It was a reasonable request, born from a man's pride. I didn't want to be completely humiliated at what was supposed to be our wedding. I refused to lose my composure. I held on to my last shred of dignity. Alice's expression shifted again. She glanced down at her watch and said anxiously, "I should go check on him. I'll go by myself. Honey, you stay here." She turned to leave. I felt the rage that had been building in my chest finally about to erupt. My fists were clenched so tight my knuckles were white, my eyes locked on Alice. Were all the years of our relationship, all the expectations of our families, going to be destroyed today? My family and I would become a complete joke. Let's just finish this ceremony. It won't take long, I repeated, my voice hoarse and strained. Alice turned back, taking a deep breath. "Honey, I don't want to lie to you. Jerry said that if I marry you, his mission will be a complete failure, and he'll die instantly. So, can we please just wait a little longer?" Alice's voice was soft. "No matter how annoying he is, he's loved me for 7 years. He doesn't deserve to end up like this." I let out a bitter laugh. It seemed Jerry's mission hadn't failed just yet. He was still trying to pull it back from the brink. And Alice, anxious and fidgeting, her heart was clearly no longer here with me. She wanted to fly to Jerry's side that very instant, unwilling to stay a second more. Not for our engagement, not even for the dignity of our families. I shook my head, mocking myself. In a twist of fate, I was the one whose mission was about to fail. Jerry had his system, but didn't I, Black, have one of my own? Seeing my silence, Alice gave me an apologetic kiss. "Honey, I love you, but Jerry has been through so much. I can't just stand by and watch him die. Forgive me. I'll be back." With that, she turned and walked away. Everyone was stunned. Relatives in the audience called out to Alice, but she paid them no mind, making a beeline for the exit. I lifted my head, watching Alice's figure grow smaller in the distance. The moment she stepped through the doorway, the world began to spin. A sharp pain shot through my head, and I collapsed. Post-mission failed. All memories of Alice will be erased. I woke up in a hospital room to the worried faces of my parents. A few other relatives were there too, along with our kind neighbors, Mr. and Mrs. Miller. Seeing that I was awake, my parents cried with relief. Mr. Miller spoke apologetically. "Black, you're finally awake. My daughter has lost her mind. She's made me so angry. I swear I'm going to break her legs." "Yes, Black, please don't take it to heart," Mrs. Miller added. "We'll be sure to discipline Alice. Her behavior was completely unacceptable." Mrs. Miller's eyes were red as she promised me over and over that they would set Alice straight. I was a little dazed, my mind a complete blank. "Alice? Who's that?" I asked. "Isn't your daughter's name Judy? Who is Alice?" Seeing my confusion, my parents grew nervous again, feeling my forehead and checking my hands. My mother started to cry, a mix of hurt and anger in her voice. "Look what that Alice has done to my son. They've been in love for years, and she just runs off at their engagement party. How is he supposed to show his face in public?" "Please, don't blame us," Mr. Miller said, deeply apologetic. "I've already sent Judy to find her. We will get to the bottom of this and give you a proper explanation." I frowned, still confused. "Hold on, who is Alice?" Everyone in the room stared, dumbfounded. My mother was shocked, touching my head again and calling for the doctor. The doctor came, and I was put through another round of thorough examinations. They found nothing physically wrong with me. I was perfectly healthy and could be discharged whenever I wanted. I just couldn't remember how I'd ended up in the hospital, and it seemed I'd forgotten a lot of other things too. In the end, the doctor suggested I stay for observation for 3 more days. If there were no other problems, I could go home. I stayed in the hospital for 3 days, and my parents, along with Mr. and Mrs. Miller, refused to leave my side. They ate and slept at the hospital, taking turns watching over me. I felt awkward about it. It was one thing for my own parents, but the Millers were being so attentive, and I wasn't used to it. I told them they should go home, that I was fine. Mr. and Mrs. Miller exchanged a strange look. "Black, have you really forgotten Alice?" Mrs. Miller asked, a little hurt by my distant tone. "You're our son-in-law. It's only right that we take care of you." I gave a helpless laugh. "Who exactly is this Alice? I'm not her husband, am I?" "Well, you two were about to get engaged, but something happened, Mr. Miller said. He took the opportunity to tell me the whole story about Alice and me. He told me all about the engagement party and even recounted stories of her childhood, how we supposedly walked dogs, played with cats, and climbed trees together. When you were 7, he said, both our families went to the beach in Santa Cruz. Alice was pulled under by a wave, and without a second thought, you jumped in to save her. If the lifeguard hadn't gotten to you both in time, you both would have drowned. Mr. Miller watched my face as he spoke, hoping for a flicker of recognition. I just smiled weakly. I didn't remember any of it, not a single detail. Mr. Miller grew anxious, but Mrs. Miller just sighed. Maybe he's just so angry that he's blocked it out for now. Black, just focus on getting better and try not to be too upset. I'm not upset, I said. I don't even know this Alice. So what is there to be angry about? The second day in the hospital was sunny, and I was in a good mood, scrolling through my phone and eating a croissant. I could hear Mr. Miller on the phone in the hallway. You foolish girl, he boomed. Black is in the hospital, and you can't even be bothered to visit him? I'm going to kill you. What do you mean you can't come? You'd better crawl your way over here if you have to. Hello? Hello? Apparently, the person on the other end had hung up. Mr. Miller tried calling again, but the phone was now off. My mom, sitting by my bed, shook her head. The Millers have made dozens of calls since yesterday. Alice only picked up once, and that was it. My mom was furious, completely disappointed in Alice. I just shrugged and went back to my phone and my pastry. That afternoon, Judy came to visit. She's the Miller's other daughter and a good friend of mine from childhood. We've always been close. The first thing she did was check me over, and she seemed to relax when she saw I looked healthy and wasn't upset. Hey, future brother-in-law, don't you worry, she said. I already gave my sister a piece of my mind for you. She's being such an idiot. It makes me so mad. Judy cursed under her breath. She was always blunt, but she wouldn't normally swear like that in front of our parents. She was clearly furious. Mr. Miller quickly asked her what was going on. Judy took a sip of water before answering. It's Jerry again, stirring up trouble. You know how he's always been obsessed with my sister, right? He once stood outside our house for a whole day and night in a rainstorm, just refusing to leave. Well, now he has cancer and doesn't have much time left. He wants my sister to stay with him during his final days, and she actually agreed. She's already moved him into our family's beach house in Malibu, so he can look at the ocean and enjoy the flowers every day. Judy got more and more worked up as she spoke, finally slamming her hand on the table. I drove out to the beach house, and I saw my sister spoon-feeding Jerry soup. He looked so damn happy it made me sick. Judy clearly knew the whole story and had already confronted Alice about it. My parents were livid, on the verge of cursing. Mr. and Mrs. Miller were just as furious, and Mrs. Miller looked like she was about to faint. Mr. Miller gritted his teeth and seethed. Alice, you are an absolute disgrace to this family. After his outburst, he quickly apologized to my parents and then tried to reassure me. Black, I will personally go drag Alice back here and make her get on her knees and apologize to you. Mrs. Miller agreed, telling her husband to go get her immediately. I just blinked, continuing to eat my pastry with a look of confusion. Judy seemed a bit puzzled and cautiously asked me, Hey, are you okay? I feel fine, I said. What's wrong? Is there something wrong with my phone? Or this pastry? Nope, nothing's wrong. Everything's great. It's actually pretty interesting. I genuinely found this whole story about Alice to be entertaining, like a real-life soap opera. Everyone in the room exchanged glances. My parents were both angry and worried, afraid something was seriously wrong with my head, and they insisted the hospital run more tests. The results came back normal again, but everyone still thought I was acting strangely. Without another word, Mr. Miller left in a fury to go get Alice. On the third day, he brought her back to the hospital. My parents, Mrs. Miller, and Judy were all there. The moment Alice walked into the room, she looked at me with a mixture of guilt and concern. Honey, are you okay? I wanted to come see you sooner, but Jerry was just discharged from the hospital, and he's in really bad shape. I had to get him settled first. Alice came closer, still apologizing. I just stared at her. To be honest, the woman was beautiful. She was about 5'7", with a slim, graceful figure, a high-bridged nose, and large eyes. It would be hard for a woman like that to be unattractive. Mr. and Mrs. Miller, when did you have another daughter? I asked. I have to say, she's very pretty. Alice froze for a second, then frowned and reached for my hand. Honey, it's me, Alice. We grew up together. Please don't say things like that just because you're angry. Before she could finish, I instinctively snatched my hand away, frowning. Who are you? You can't just grab my hand like that. Alice froze again, then lowered her head with a bitter smile. Dad said you lost your memory. I know you're just pretending because you hate me now. I'm sorry, honey. It's all my fault. Please, just listen to me. She reached for my hand again. I scowled and shook her off more forcefully this time. What are you doing? Stop touching me. Alice clearly didn't expect such a strong reaction. She looked both hurt and humiliated, lowering her head and speaking in a hoarse voice. Okay, I won't touch you again. I know I hurt you badly, but Jerry is dying. You know he's going to die. He's had such a hard life, a difficult family, terrible living conditions. He's never had a single good day. Alice lifted her head, her eyes pleading. He wasted 7 years of his life on me, and now he's dying. I can't just do nothing and watch him suffer. Isn't a person's life more important than our engagement party? Alice demanded. My parents looked like they were about to explode. Mr. Miller smacked Alice on the back of the head. Shut your mouth. This isn't about the party or Jerry. Who is more important, him or Black? Dad, you can't compare them like that. Jerry has cancer. He sacrificed so much for me. Alice shot back. I was just getting annoyed. I didn't care about some engagement party or who was more important. I just didn't like this stranger grabbing my hand. Stop arguing. I sighed. I don't want to see you. Please leave. My parents clearly wanted her gone too. Alice pressed her lips together and slowly got to her feet. Honey, I hope you can be reasonable about this. Jerry has suffered so much. Our happiness comes at the cost of his suffering. So go ahead, pretend you have amnesia. Hate me if you want. I'll accept it. But please be the bigger person. Show Jerry a little understanding and forgiveness. I was speechless. What was she even talking about? Look, I'm sorry, but I really don't know you, I said. As for Jerry, I think I remember him from college. He was a year behind me. He's had a rough life, so you should take good care of him. Love him well. I wish you both happiness. I sincerely wish them a long and happy life together. Alice sighed again. I'll come back when you're not so angry anymore. She turned and walked out, ignoring Judy yelling at her and the Millers trying to stop her. That night, a sudden storm rolled in with heavy rain and loud thunder. I woke up with a jolt in the middle of the night. It's embarrassing to admit, but I'm terrified of thunderstorms. When I was 7, I got lost during a storm and cried my eyes out. Ever since then, they've given me serious anxiety. Thunderstorms make my skin crawl. My parents and the Millers weren't in the room. They were probably sleeping in the lounge down the hall. I didn't want to wake them, so I just stayed under the covers and scrolled through my phone, since the thunder was keeping me up anyway. But then my mom came in. Seeing me awake, she teased. With all this thunder, I figured you wouldn't be sleeping. I smiled. My mom touched my forehead and sighed. I remember, whenever it stormed like this, Alice would come over with an umbrella, even in the middle of the night, just to sit with you. She knew you couldn't sleep. Really? Yes. She was so worried about you. I remember one time, right after that incident when you got lost, there was another thunderstorm, and you were hysterical. Alice ran over to our house barefoot in the pouring rain, calling your name, telling you not to be scared. She got completely soaked and had a high fever for days afterward. She had a growth spurt before you did, so she was taller than you for a while. She was like a protective big sister. Oh, really? I didn't feel a thing. I just smiled and said it was a silly thing for her to do. My mom asked hesitantly, "You really don't remember Alice at all?" She suspected I was faking it, since all my medical tests were normal. Mom, I don't know this Alice, and I don't like her, I said with a frown. My first impression of her was awful. Please, don't bring her up again. My mom considered this for a moment, then nodded. After I was discharged, we took Mr. Miller's car to his house. The housekeeper had already prepared lunch, and a lot of the Millers' relatives were there to celebrate my release from the hospital. Black, we're all here today to celebrate you getting out of the hospital and also to apologize, Mr. Miller said, his voice full of guilt. We hope you won't hold it against us that we failed to raise our daughter properly. I quickly waved his apology away. Mr. Miller had spent days at the hospital looking after me. He was exhausted. We had a pleasant lunch, and all the Miller relatives said kind things, clearly hoping I would forgive Alice. They were afraid I would call off the engagement, since our family's businesses were closely intertwined. Our houses were right next to each other in the same gated community, and a falling out would be messy. But I truly didn't know any Alice. Everyone, our parents have been friends for decades. I said, try and put them at ease. No matter what happens between Alice and me, it won't change the relationship between our families. Please don't worry. Everyone seemed to relax a little. Mrs. Miller seized the moment. Black, when Alice comes back to her senses, we promise we'll throw you a magnificent engagement ceremony. We won't let you be wronged in any way. Just as she finished, the housekeeper announced that Miss Miller was home. All eyes turned to the door. Mr. Miller looked pleased and stood up. I gave that girl a piece of my mind. It seems she's finally realized her mistake and has come back to apologize. But his smile vanished as he saw that it wasn't just Alice who had returned. Jerry was with her. Jerry, tall and gaunt, was wearing a light jacket and a beanie, coughing as he nervously held Alice's hand in the doorway. Everyone was stunned. Mr. Miller exploded. Alice, are you out of your mind? Have you no shame? Let go of his hand. Jerry flinched, his frail body seeming to shrink even more. Alice quickly explained, Dad, don't scare him. He's gotten very timid since the cancer diagnosis. He was terrified by the thunderstorm last night, and the wind and waves at the beach house were too much for him. So I brought him here. You're usually not home during the day, so I didn't know you were all having lunch here. Shut up. You've completely lost your mind. Get out of this house, and take him with you. Mr. Miller roared. Jerry cowered, staring at the floor without saying a word. I was actually curious to see what the main character of this whole drama looked like. I hadn't seen Jerry in years, so I was genuinely interested. I walked over and gestured for Mr. Miller to calm down. Alice met my eyes for a second before looking away, a guilty and embarrassed expression on her face. I paid her no attention and focused on Jerry. He gave a weak smile and looked up, revealing a pale face. But his eyes were still just as bright. His eyes were exceptionally bright, more brilliant than any star. Even though his face was ashen, those striking eyes made him look like a delicate, handsome young man. Back in college, he had been very plain, his clothes old and worn, and he radiated a sense of insecurity. Now he still lacked confidence, but he also looked miserable, which made sense given the cancer. Jerry, it's been a long time, I said with a smile. Jerry just stood there, staring at me in utter confusion. Alice quickly jumped in. Honey, this is all my fault. Don't blame Jerry. I'll take him and leave right now. She started to pull Jerry away. He looks like a strong gust of wind could knock him over. Why are you dragging him all over the place? I said, let him stay here. The environment is nice, the air is clean, and you can have a private doctor on call. It's a good place for him to rest. Jerry froze again. Alice didn't freeze, but she looked angry. It seemed my complete lack of jealousy and my over-the-top generosity were not what she wanted to see. She probably thought I was being sarcastic. What is it that you want, Black? She snapped. I said we could get engaged in a month, and you have to make a scene. Why are you mocking Jerry? He doesn't have much time left. Can't you just let him have a little peace? Alice grew angrier with every word. I was baffled. Why are you angry? I'm just concerned about his health. A terminal cancer patient shouldn't be dragged all over town. First of all, I'm not being sarcastic. Second, I have no intention of getting engaged to you in a month because I don't like you. And finally, I really don't know you. So please watch your tone. I warned her sternly. No one behind me said a word. Jerry was silent. Frustrated, Alice pulled Jerry inside the house. Fine, Black. You're really something else. Keep up your little act. I'll take your advice. Jerry will stay here to recover. This place is perfect for it. She was furious and clearly impulsive. Mr. Miller yelled, Alice, stop right there. Who gave you permission to bring a stranger into this house? Black did. Alice retorted angrily. And just like that, Jerry moved in. All the relatives were furious on my behalf. I didn't care. I just wanted to go home. Luckily, my house was right next door. When I got home, my parents cursed Alice's name and lamented how much I must be suffering. A grown man, jilted by his fiancée, who then brings another man into her family home. It was a huge scandal, but I didn't think it was a big deal at all. In fact, wasn't it great? Who was this Alice anyway? Why should I feel hurt? That night, it started thundering again. Summer storms appear out of nowhere, and the thunder can be deafening. I couldn't sleep. I remember my mom saying that Alice used to come over during storms to keep me company, but she wouldn't be coming now. Her precious Jerry was also afraid of thunder, especially since he got sick. As I was thinking about this, the doorbell rang. It was barely audible over the storm, but I got a notification on my phone. Who will be visiting in this weather? My mom went to answer the door and let the person in. I listened and heard Alice's anxious, high-pitched voice. Black is terrified of thunder. For years, whenever it stormed, he needed me with him to be able to sleep. He can't sleep without me. Black is already asleep. You should go home, my mom replied, her voice dripping with resentment. Mrs. Chun, it's all my fault. I lost my temper with Black earlier today, but I really do love him. It's just, she sighed. Can I please go up and see him? No, my mom said flatly. Alice was quiet for a moment before sighing. In that case, please tell Black that I know he hasn't really forgotten me. I'll wait for him to forgive me, even if it takes a lifetime. Ugh, how disgusting. I got goosebumps, and I wasn't even scared of the thunder anymore. I turned on a light and got up for a glass of water. I glanced over at the Miller's house next door and saw a light on in a third-floor room. A tall, thin figure was standing at the window, staring silently in my direction. I jumped, realizing it was Jerry. He was standing there like a ghost, probably waiting for Alice to come back. I quickly closed my curtains, not wanting to have any nightmares. After a night of heavy rain, the air was filled with the clean, fresh scent of wet earth. Judy came running over to my house. I was in the middle of breakfast, and she unceremoniously grabbed my glass of milk and chugged it. I'm so fed up, she announced. Now I have to live in the same house as Jerry. My parents went back to the office, and the whole situation is making my skin crawl. It was just her, Alice, and Jerry at their house. My parents are furious. They cut off my sister's credit cards, but she has plenty of her own money saved up, and she has a horrible temper. She even threatened to kill herself if we try to kick Jerry out. Judy kept complaining. I found the whole thing amusing. What a drama queen. I can't take it anymore, she said. I don't want to be at home. Let's go do something fun. Hey, how about we go to the university's anniversary celebration tomorrow? Judy suggested out of the blue. I was a little surprised. The university's anniversary celebration? Oh, that's right. Stanford was having its anniversary celebration, and all the alumni were invited back. Judy was actually a few years behind me in school. Why the sudden interest in the anniversary celebration? I asked. Judy shrugged. The university called my sister this morning and invited her. She's even giving a speech. That made sense. She was one of the Stanford twin stars back in the day. Why didn't they invite me? I'm accomplished too. I make $5,000 a month, Judy said indignantly. She was joking, of course. Her official salary from the family business was just for show. Her actual allowance was more like $100,000 a month. I couldn't help but laugh. My memory was a little hazy on that point. Were there really twin stars at Stanford back then? I thought there was only one, and I was pretty sure her name was May. May Davis was the brightest star in Stanford's recent history. During my time there, stories of her achievements were legendary. For instance, she took 9 elective courses in one semester and got the top grade in 3 of them. She won first place in the National Collegiate Physics Competition. She also won the top prize for Stanford in the International Mathematical Contest in modeling. She was incredible and had left a deep impression on me. I heard she'd been recruited by several top graduate schools and had probably settled down somewhere in Europe by now. Hey, what are you thinking about? Judy asked, excited. So, are we going to the celebration or not? It'll be fun to see old friends. I wasn't thrilled about the idea, especially since Alice was going to be there, and I had no desire to see her. But then I thought, why should I avoid her? She meant nothing to me. She was just a stranger. All right, let's go, I said. On the day of the celebration, we arrived early and spent some time wandering around campus, grabbing food and drinks. After we'd had our fill, we headed over to the main auditorium where the event was being held. It was a spacious, brightly lit hall with a large stage. I heard there was going to be a dance after the speeches, a proper party. Outside the auditorium, there were 2 large posters. One featured Alice, and the other featured May Davis. There wasn't much to say about Alice's poster. She was undeniably impressive, with a stellar resume and a powerful family background. She donated a lot of money to the university every year, so it made sense they'd invite her to speak. May, on the other hand, was more of a mystery. She had basically vanished after graduation. According to the poster, she was now a professor at Cambridge, the youngest female professor in the university's history. She was really something else. May definitely deserved her twin star title. Since she graduated, no one else from our year had achieved anything close to that level of success. Judy was in awe, snapping pictures of the poster with her phone. And she's gorgeous. Look at that dress. And her lips are so elegant. I roll my eyes. Judy was such a fangirl, even over another woman. I didn't bother looking too closely at the poster and just pulled her inside the auditorium. The place was packed with alumni, and I recognized a few faces. After some small talk, the event officially started. The university president and a few deans gave their speeches, and then it was Alice's turn. She looked stunning, like an ethereal princess, and a buzz went through the crowd the moment she stepped on stage. She was clearly very popular. "My sister really is amazing," Judy muttered, just a little mixed up in the head. I didn't say anything. After Alice finished, May took the stage. The reception for her was much more subdued than it had been for Alice. It wasn't because she was less impressive, but because she had always been aloof and kept to herself in college. People admired her from a distance, but she didn't really have a social circle, so everyone saw her as unapproachable. I watched her. Her beauty was different from Alice's. Alice was like a fairy tale princess, while May was more like a mystical deer you might glimpse in a misty forest. That was the feeling she gave off. After May's speech, the formal part of the celebration ended and the party began. The auditorium transformed into a reception hall, filled with alumni of all ages, chatting and drinking. Judy, a devoted foodie, immediately took off in search of the buffet and disappeared into the crowd. I was looking around for Judy when I saw Alice walking toward me. She was the center of attention, as always. People's eyes followed her wherever she went, as if she had her own spotlight. I had to admit, she was impressive, but I still didn't want to talk to her. My first impression of her had made it impossible for me to like her. "Black, you came too," Alice said, her expression unreadable. I ignored her. She tried again. "Did you come just to see me? I rarely give speeches these days. How was it?" I frowned. How could she be so self-centered? "Alice, I'm just here to enjoy the party, and I really don't know you. So please watch what you say," I told her sharply. The alumni, standing nearby, went quiet, looking confused. Alice's smile vanished. She pursed her lips and suddenly grabbed my arm, trying to pull me aside. "What are you doing?" I snapped. "Black, is there really nothing left between us?" she asked, her voice tight. "I know I messed up, but do you have to keep humiliating me like this?" Alice gritted her teeth, looking both hurt and angry. "Yes, there's nothing left because I don't know you. How many times do I have to tell you? I don't know who you are." I was starting to get angry. Who did this woman think she was? Alice's eyes immediately turned red, welling up with tears. She looked pathetic. "Fine," she choked out. "Keep pretending." She blinked back her tears, took a deep breath, and then turned to a guy standing nearby, smiling sweetly and asking him to dance. The guy, looking thrilled, immediately took her hand and led her to the dance floor. Alice kept glancing over at me, clearly trying to get a reaction. I was speechless. Was she a child? "Black, it's been a long time. Would you care to dance?" A soft voice asked. I turned and saw Mate Davis smiling at me. Her gentle voice was a surprising contrast to her famously reserved and cool personality. I pointed to myself. "You're asking me?" "Yes, Black." May said, her smile unwavering. I was skeptical. "You know who I am? I was practically invisible at Stanford." "Not quite invisible," she chuckled. "As the top student in the English department, you beat me in a university debate championship." I vaguely remembered that. It was true. I had been bored one semester and signed up for the debate team, hoping to learn from the best. Surprisingly, I did extremely well, and our team took first place. One of my opponents had been May, but I hadn't even registered that this campus legend was on the other team. To be honest, I hadn't paid attention to any of the girls. I remember the topic, May reminisced. It was which is more important, love or life? Your team argued for love, and my team argued for life. We were doomed from the start. How can love possibly be more important than life? You're right. I think we won by pure luck, I said modestly. May laughed. You won because of your skill. Back then, you were a force of nature, so full of energy. Like a lone tree growing on a cliff, just brimming with life. It was a strange metaphor, but it was a compliment, so I took it. So I accepted her invitation. It was better than standing around bored. I confidently took her hand and led her onto the dance floor. To my surprise, she was a very good dancer. She didn't seem like a cold, untouchable academic genius at all, but more like an elegant white rose. Do you dance often? I teased. Yes, she replied. There are a lot of formal events in Europe, so you pick it up. May looked up at me, and her gaze was surprisingly intense, not at all what I expected from her reserved image. But it wasn't an unpleasant look, it was filled with admiration. I felt a little self-conscious under her stare and searched for a new topic. You haven't been back to the States in a long time, have you? What brings you back now? I'm about to get my permanent residency in the UK, she said. This might be my last trip back for a while. I nodded, watching her graceful movements as we danced. The music was elegant, and all around us, other alumni were laughing and talking. I enjoyed the moment. It felt like being young again. Suddenly, someone bumped hard into May, and she nearly fell. I frowned and saw Alice and her dance partner right next to us. Alice's face was pale with rage, and she looked like she could kill someone. It was obvious she had bumped into May on purpose. May caught her balance and saw Alice. She didn't say a word, just gave me a look that said, "Let's go." "Stop," Alice yelled, unable to contain herself. She abandoned her dance partner and came over to grab my other arm. May looked annoyed. "Alice, what do you think you're doing?" "What do I mean?" Alice shot back, her voice rising. "Don't you know that Black is my fiancé? What do you think you're doing?" People around us were starting to stare. I was getting frustrated. "Alice, are you insane?" I shook her hand off me and started to walk away. Not wanting to cause a scene, May came with me. "May, I'm talking to you." Alice shrieked, her anger escalating. "I don't want to make a scene, but have some self-respect." Alice was completely losing it. A woman with her background and upbringing would never normally speak like that. May stopped walking, her expression firm. Her soft voice was now laced with ice. "Alice, do you want to be escorted out?" That was the final straw. Alice flew into a rage and threw a punch at May. She had clearly taken boxing lessons, because the punch landed squarely on May's nose. The crowd gasped as May's nose started to bleed, but she was no pushover. She immediately fought back. She knew Taekwondo, and her kicks were sharp and precise. I was stunned. What kind of history did these two women have with each other? I could almost understand Alice's unhinged behavior, but May, a respected professor, seemed even more furious than Alice. I quickly moved to pull them apart, and other alumni rushed in to help. Both of them were bleeding. May's nose was a mess, and Alice had a cut on her lip. "Black, come with me," Alice yelled, pushing through the people to grab me. May didn't say a word. She just looked at me. I had a feeling she wanted me to go with her. Without a moment's hesitation, I put my arm around May to support her. "Let's get you to a doctor," I said. "Black, you can't be serious," Alice said, her voice full of disbelief. I glanced back at her. Her face was a mask of shock and a kind of fear I couldn't describe. For the first time, she looked genuinely afraid of losing me. I took May to the campus health center. After they cleaned up her nose, she was fine. "Are you crazy?" I asked her. "A Cambridge professor getting into a brawl at an alumni event? Aren't you embarrassed?" I still couldn't wrap my head around it. May just let out a little, silly-sounding laugh. "Tell me, champion debater," she said, "which do you think is more important, life or love?" It felt just like all those years ago when she was standing on the debate stage, methodically grilling me with questions. I froze for a second, then gave her a playful tap on the arm. "Are you nuts?" "I think love is more important," May said earnestly. "Without love, life is just an empty shell. There's no difference between being alive and being dead." I was speechless. I held up my hands in surrender. Okay, love is more important. You win this round." She laughed again. She seemed particularly happy tonight, and her smile was radiant. But it was getting late, and I still had to find Judy. I said my goodbyes to May, telling her that if fate allowed, perhaps we'd meet again. Since she was heading back to the UK, It really would be up to fate. May hesitated, looking like she wanted to say something but couldn't find the words. Well, I'm heading out, I said with a wave. May opened her mouth to speak, and just as I reached the door, she finally called out, "Black, are you still going to marry Alice?" I paused. I had a feeling she knew the whole story about me and Alice, even though I couldn't remember it myself. "Did you approach me on purpose tonight? Who sent you?" I asked, turning back to face her. "Jerry told me that you and Alice broke up, so I came back," May admitted freely. "And I fought her tonight to stand up for you." "Jerry told you? To stand up for me?" In that moment, everything clicked into place. Jerry had used her. Jerry was a master manipulator. First, he used his cancer to get Alice's sympathy and stop our engagement. But Alice still loved me and wasn't ready to give up on us. So, Jerry tricked May into coming back to the States to act as a wedge between us. As long as May could lure me away, Alice would be left with no one but Jerry, and his plan would succeed. "You've been used," I said, shaking my head. May just chuckled. "That's not the point. Haven't you realized yet that I'm confessing my feelings for you? I'm starting to," I said with a smile, a little bit of male pride creeping in. "It seems I didn't just beat you in that debate. I also won your heart." May sat on the edge of the examination table, looking up at me. "You haven't changed a bit," she said. "You're still like that tree on the cliff, proud and free, growing in the sun and the wind." "Thanks for the compliment," I said. "So," she asked, "can I be the little patch of grass growing next to you?" "It's a hard rock to grow on," I replied. "Grass doesn't have an easy time of it. Think about it carefully." With a final wave, I left. I found Judy on a path outside. She had been looking for me and was starting to get worried. "My sister got in a fist fight with May Davis," Judy said, exasperated. "I don't know what to do. This is so humiliating." "Let them fight," I said as I walked with her toward the parking lot. By the time I got back to my place, it was late and my parents were out. Judy decided to crash at my house for the night. She couldn't stand the thought of going back to her place with Jerry there. "My parents gave her an ultimatum," she said. "If my sister doesn't get rid of Jerry by tomorrow, they're going to have him forcibly removed." "Good for them," I said. Judy followed me inside, still talking. The Millers were normally very mild-mannered people, so for them to issue an ultimatum was a big deal. "I think your sister is spoiled," I commented. "Your parents let her get away with too much." "She is spoiled, but you're partly to blame for this too," Judy shot back, giving me a look. "If you hadn't told her Jerry could stay at our house, my parents wouldn't be in this impossible situation." She had a point. I was the one who suggested Jerry stay there. So be it. We grilled some steaks for dinner. Afterwards, the doorbell rang. Judy went to get it, and I heard her exclaim, "Jerry, what are you doing here?" I raised an eyebrow and went to the door. Sure enough, it was Jerry. He was bundled up in a light jacket and a beanie, his face pale and colorless. "I need to talk to Black," Jerry said. "He's busy." "Go away," Judy said, trying to shut the door on him. "Alice just called me," Jerry continued, his voice calm. "She told me to get ready. She wants to marry me." Judy was stunned. "What? Say that again." "Alice wants to marry me," Jerry repeated. Judy was so furious, she raised her hand to slap him, but I stepped in. "Judy, go upstairs. I need to talk to Jerry." "But he's a manipulative jerk," she protested, refusing to move. I gave her a stern look, and she reluctantly trudged upstairs. Now, it was just Jerry and me in the entryway. He walked into the living room as if he owned the place, his eyes scanning the room before landing on the wine cabinet, where the bottles gleamed under the lights. "I like a glass of that," Jerry said, pointing to a bottle on the rack. I took it down and gestured for him to sit. He sat down at the dining table, his bright eyes fixed on me. His eyes had always been that bright. I opened the bottle and poured him a glass. He took it with both hands, staring at the red liquid as it swirled. I poured one for myself, took a sip, and asked, "What do you want?" He didn't answer right away. He took a small sip of the wine, a look of pure bliss spreading across his face. He let out a soft sigh. "This is so good. That's the cheapest bottle I own," I told him honestly. He didn't seem to mind. He chose his next words carefully. "Black, do you know that my biggest dream has always been to sit and drink wine elegantly, just like you?" "That's a dream," I asked. "Of course it is," he replied. "When I was 7, they showed a movie in my village. I sat on a dirty bucket and watched some businessman in the city drinking wine on a blurry screen. He looked so noble, so handsome. That image has stayed with me my entire life. A faint smile played on Jerry's lips, and a little color returned to his cheeks. I crossed my legs, waiting for him to continue. And then he said, I studied my ass off. When I wasn't working, I was studying until my fingers were raw and I'd run out of ink. I was the first person from my village to ever go to college. My parents borrowed money to send me to school in San Francisco. Their backs are permanently bent from a lifetime of hard labor, their eyes always stinging from sweat. But I finally had the money to get an education. Jerry's eyes grew red. He took another sip of wine, watching it swirl in the glass. I got into Stanford. I was going to make something of myself. I could have been a scientist, a businessman, a politician. At the very least, I could have been a professional working in an office in the city. I could finally be that man, crossing his legs and drinking wine. Handsome, elegant, noble. I wanted my parents to be able to drink wine too. They deserved it. I listened in silence. Jerry's story was the same as that of so many other kids from poor towns. Even getting into college didn't end the struggle. For someone like him, a glass of wine really could be a lifelong dream. So, you want to marry the rich girl, Alice, and live a life of luxury, drinking wine every day? I asked. No, Black, you don't understand me at all, Jerry said with a bitter smile. I had a bright future. I had the chance, the ability to break my family cycle of poverty. I could see that glass of wine. It was right there. I could almost reach out and grab it. But then I was bound by the system. I was forced to win over Alice. It's pathetic, isn't it? I wasted 7 years of my life trying to win over some woman, being her pathetic little follower. Jerry's laughter grew louder and more manic, and tears streamed from his eyes like a flash flood. Do you have any idea what that's like? To be forced to pour all your energy into being some woman's lapdog? I couldn't study, I couldn't get ahead, I couldn't even finish my assignments. My entire existence revolved around one woman. And if I tried to resist, I would die. Jerry slammed his glass down on the table, splashing wine over his hand. He shook it off and stared right at me. I could barely afford to feed myself, but I had to buy Alice breakfast every morning. I hate tennis, but I had to go to every single one of her matches and cheer for her. I was frail and always getting sick, but I had to stand in the rain holding an umbrella for her. Whenever I didn't want to do something, the system would threaten to kill me. It felt like there was a wire tightening around my neck, slowly choking me, never letting me take a full breath. Jerry said a lot more, tears streaming down his face before he quickly wiped them away. I just stared at him. So, you never even liked Alice? A man like me doesn't have the luxury of dreaming about love, he said. The only thing I've ever wanted is that glass of wine. No man in his right mind would waste 7 years of his life chasing after one woman. This thing people call love isn't even worth 7 days of effort, Jerry said with conviction. I was speechless. Jerry sniffled, then let out a long, relieved sigh. I was the one who tricked May into coming back. I knew she'd had a crush on you ever since that debate about love versus life. I watched the whole thing from the audience. She didn't disappoint. She drove Alice crazy. And now, to get revenge on you, Alice has decided to marry me to make you jealous, Jerry sneered. I know what she's doing. She's hoping you'll get jealous and try to stop the wedding. That's why I'm here. I'm asking you for one last favor. Don't stop her. Let me finally end this game. I understood everything now. Alice was trying to make me jealous. Her decision to marry Jerry was just a desperate move made in a fit of rage. If I went back to her, she would call off the wedding, and Jerry's plan would fail. If Alice marries you, will it all be over? Will your cancer be cured? I asked. Yes, he said, looking utterly exhausted. It will all be over. It's been 7 years. I'm almost 30 years old. I'm so tired. When do I finally get to have my glass of wine? After he said this, he pulled a debit card out of his pocket. I watched him, curious, as he reluctantly pushed the card across the table toward me. I've managed to save $89,000. I've wasted so much time and energy on Alice that this is all I have to show for it. I'm giving it to you as payment. The PIN is 1-3-7-6-5-4. I didn't want to take his money, but he made no move to take the card back. He simply finished his wine, stood up, and dragged his weary body out the door. Judy came running downstairs. "Is that scumbag gone?" "What did he say?" "Nothing important," I said, slipping the card into my pocket. Judy looked skeptical. "Nothing important? Then why did he come all the way over here? Is my sister really going to marry him?" "Yes," I said. There was no doubt about it. May had pushed Alice over the edge, and now she was planning to marry Jerry just to get back at me. The very next day, she gathered both our families and some friends for dinner at her parents' house. My parents assumed Alice had finally come to her senses and was there to apologize. Mr. and Mrs. Miller were also relieved, smiling as they sipped their tea. "It's for the best that you two make up," one of the relatives said. "As for that Jerry fellow, it's generous enough of you not to have him thrown out on the street." "Yes, once Alice and Black are married, we can all chip in to pay for Jerry's medical bills," another relative added kindly. Alice, however, remained silent, her eyes fixed on me. I ignored her. She let out a derisive snort. "So, Black, did you enjoy your dance with May?" The room went dead silent. Everyone was stunned. "Alice, what are you talking about?" Mr. Miller demanded. "What am I talking about?" Alice's voice was dripping with sarcasm. "I'm talking about how charming Black is. He's managed to seduce the most brilliant woman to ever graduate from Stanford. He didn't give a damn about his injured fiancée, but he couldn't wait to rush a total stranger to the clinic. He was probably crying with worry over her. What are you even talking about?" I shot back. "I've told you I don't know you. I feel nothing for you. Why shouldn't I be concerned about someone else?" Alice slammed her hand on the table, her eyes red with fury. "You're still keeping up this amnesia act." "I'm not acting. I don't know you," I said calmly. "Besides, I've always remembered May, and I've always admired her. She told me she had feelings for me, and I accepted. I'll let the bomb drop." Everyone was in shock. Alice, livid, let out a sarcastic laugh. "Perfect. In that case, I'll just marry Jerry. We can go our separate ways." With that, she wiped away a tear and stormed out of the room without a backward glance. I watched her go, knowing she was waiting for me to call her back. So I did. "Wait," I called out. Alice stopped in her tracks, but didn't turn around. "What?" "May and I are getting engaged the day after tomorrow," I said pleasantly. "Be sure to come, and don't forget to bring a gift." She froze, her body rigid. Then she clenched her jaw, her eyes filling with tears, and walked away. Alice was gone just like that. All the relatives were left staring in bewildered shock, with no idea what had just happened. I didn't bother explaining anything. I just drove over to the university by myself. I saw May on the athletic fields, just walking aimlessly. She used to do that a lot, just wander around the track in her free time. A lot of guys used to hang around, hoping for a chance encounter with her. I walked quickly up behind her, but she was so lost in thought she didn't notice me, even when I was right behind her. Just as I was about to tap her on the shoulder, she got a video call. It was her parents. "May, when are you coming back to the UK? You need to sort out your residency," her father said, sounding anxious. Her mother chimed in, "Yes, hurry back. I've already found a nice young man for you to meet. He's handsome, half English." May just smiled. "There's no rush. I'm enjoying being back at Stanford for a bit." "What do you mean, no rush?" her mother pressed. "You're not getting any younger. You need to come back so I can introduce you to someone." Then her father added, "Honey, you're almost 30. You haven't dated anyone in years." "You're not? Well, I'm just warning you. Even though we live in Europe, we can't adopt all of their modern ways." I almost burst out laughing. So May was getting the marriage pressure too. "Mom, Dad, please stop worrying. I'll be back soon," May said, sounding exasperated. After she ended the call, she resumed her aimless walk. I jumped out in front of her and yelled, "Boo!" She jumped, then laughed when she saw it was me. "So, Black, who do you think is scarier, a person or a ghost?" she asked playfully. "Nope, stop right there. No more debates," I said, holding up my hands. She just nodded with a smile. Without wasting any more time, I pulled out my phone to take a selfie. May looked surprised and even a little nervous. Her expression was tense. "Why are you so nervous?" "It's just a selfie," I said with a laugh. "I don't know," she admitted. "I just never imagined you'd want to take a picture with me." She was still nervous, but she was beautiful even when she was flustered. I snapped a quick selfie of the two of us and posted it to my Facebook with the caption, "Together." May was stunned, staring at my phone in disbelief. "Black, are you serious?" she asked, her eyes wide. I nodded. You're the only person who's made me feel anything in a long, long time. But what about Alice? She asked. Who's that? I replied honestly. May stared at me for a long moment, then excitedly called her parents back. Mom, Dad, I don't want a UK residency anymore. I'd rather live in the States. You've always said you wanted to move back, so once I'm settled, I'll bring you both over. Wow, she was all in. Was this really the untouchable academic prodigy? One of the Stanford twin stars? Adorable. I went home feeling pretty good about myself. But when I got there, I saw Alice standing in front of my house, looking like a storm cloud. She was seething, her head bowed and her body trembling slightly with rage. I walked up to her, and she looked up at me, her lips trembling. Are you really with May? Yes, I said plainly. Black, do you really not love me anymore? She asked, her voice breaking. Just because I wanted to save Jerry's life, you're going to hate me this much? Sorry, but I don't even know who you are, I stated plainly. How could I possibly love you? Alice squeezed her eyes shut, tears streaming down her face as she forced the words out. Fine, fine. You better not regret this. Don't you dare. She was utterly heartbroken. She turned and left without looking back. A few minutes later, I heard a huge argument erupt from the Miller's house, with Mr. Miller yelling and Mrs. Miller crying. Finally, I heard the roar of an engine as Alice sped off in a sports car with Jerry. Later, I saw Alice's post on Facebook. The caption read, "Having you in my life is the greatest joy I've ever known." There were two pictures, one of her and Jerry, and another of their marriage certificate. She's lost her mind. My sister has completely lost her mind. Judy cried, rushing over to my house, her face pale. She married Jerry, didn't she? I asked calmly. Yes. She had a massive fight with our parents, grabbed her birth certificate, and ran off to City Hall with him. It's over. Judy looked like she was about to cry. I guess I wouldn't be her brother-in-law anymore. I could already foresee the mountain of drama that was about to come down on us. The relatives from both families were going to have a meltdown, and I was going to have a massive headache dealing with it all. Judy, I'm going out of town for a while, I told her. Tell everyone not to worry about me. I'm fine, and I'm with May now. I decided to get out of town before the storm hit. Before any relatives could show up at my door, I packed a bag and hit the road. On my way out of the city, I called May and asked her to join me. That night, we were sitting on an Amtrak train heading east. So, Black, where are we going? She asked. Somewhere fun, I replied. Let's just travel for a month and see where we end up. A month should be long enough for the chaos to die down, right? May was game for anything, so we traveled wherever the mood took us, eating, drinking, and sleeping whenever we felt like it. And of course, we took care of each other's needs. For example, when her feet got cold, I'd warm them up for her. And as her feet warmed up, so did the rest of us. What can I say? If you know, you know. After our trip, we returned to San Francisco. May's parents were eager to move back to the States, and she went to the airport to welcome them. She also arranged for the four of us to have dinner, so she could formally introduce me. I was more than happy to go. Afterwards, I called Judy to get an update on what had happened over the past month. You're finally back, she said with a heavy sigh. My sister is a complete wreck. She's been drinking and gambling every single day. You're kidding. It's only been a month, and she's already fallen that far. Jerry divorced her, Judy explained. They got the marriage license one day and filed for divorce the next. The whole thing was a sham. Everyone was shocked. Judy sounded like she was still in disbelief. We all thought he was just a gold digger, marrying my sister for her money. But then he divorced her the very next day, without asking for a single penny. My sister's heart was still with you, of course. She regretted marrying him the second she did it. So she agreed to the divorce immediately. Right after the divorce was finalized, Jerry told her something, and ever since then, she's been a complete mess, Judy said, her voice full of frustration. I heard a commotion on her end of the line, and then someone else grabbed the phone. I could hear Alice sobbing. Black, is that you? Alice cried into the phone. I know I was wrong. Please come back to me. How could you forget me? Is this your way of getting revenge, forgetting me because I left you? I had no idea what she was talking about. Jerry told me he figured out, she sobbed. Your mission was to win my heart, and you failed, so the system made you forget me. It's all my fault. I deserve to die. Please, just come back to me, please. Alice was crying hysterically, but I felt nothing. Because honestly, I didn't know who she was. I'm with May now. Goodbye. I hung up the phone. I was in a good mood and didn't feel like heading home just yet, so I decided to take a walk around the city. As I was passing by a shopping plaza, I saw a familiar figure. He was tall and thin, dressed in simple clothes, enthusiastically handing out flyers to passersby. I stood and watched him for a moment, taking in his smiling face, his thin frame silhouetted by the sun, his clothes fluttering in the breeze. I walked over to him. He saw me and froze for a second, then a grin spread across his face. "Hey," he said, "want to get a drink? There's a cafe over there. I've got a bottle of wine in my bag." "Where'd you get the wine?" I asked. "Alice's house," he replied. I figure I couldn't let 7 years of being her loyal follower go completely to waste, he said with a shrug. So I took the most expensive bottle from her wine cellar. "Good call," I said. "Let's go have that drink." 6 months later, May and I got married. My family had moved out of that neighborhood long before. Alice had completely fallen apart in those 6 months. She was drinking heavily, gambling, and letting her health go. The once beautiful woman had become a hollowed-out addict. Her parents were so distraught they both became ill. In the end, they decided to cut her off completely, letting her hit rock bottom on her own. I saw Alice again on Christmas Eve. She was revving the engine of her sports car, some vapid-looking male model screaming with laughter in the passenger seat. I watched from a distance as Alice got out of the car, yawning, and lit a cigarette. She had lost all the pride and elegance she once had as a Stanford Twins star. Now, she was just a mess. "Damn it, this place is packed," she slurred, looking around. "Where's that bar we went to last time?" The male model giggled. "I don't remember either. Where was it? We drank so much last night, I forgot." Alice suddenly stopped walking, whirled around to face him, and screamed, "Forget my ass. You're not allowed to forget. Do you hear me? You're not allowed." The model looked terrified and started apologizing profusely. "I remember now. I remember." Alice slapped him hard across the face. He quickly pointed down the street. "I remember. It's over there." Satisfied, Alice turned and stalked off toward the bar, her cigarette dangling from her lips. But after taking only a few steps, she suddenly crumpled to the sidewalk, sobbing uncontrollably. The man she loved couldn't even remember who she was. A long time after that, I ran into Jerry again. He wasn't handing out flyers anymore. He had passed the Foreign Service exam and was working for the State Department. He was a Stanford graduate, after all. After 7 years of hell, handing out flyers had just been a temporary gig to make ends meet. With his intelligence and drive, he was always going to succeed eventually. He was preparing to leave for his first overseas post. Before he left, he came to see me, a bottle of wine in his hand. I smiled. "Come for a drink, Mr. Black," he said formally. "Please, let me buy you a drink." "No need to be so formal." I laughed. "It's not the first time we've had a drink together." We drank, and for the most part, Jerry talked while I listened. He told me how he had studied relentlessly to pass the exam. He could finally sit back, cross his legs, and drink his wine. This was a glass of wine that had been 7 years in the making. We raised our glasses and drank to that.